Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners, to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we're always talking everything college hoops. You could have been anywhere else on the dial, but you chose to be here with us, Mike and Gus, and guess what? We finally found a place where our paths can cross. Mike, how's everything going over there?
It's going well, partner. I mean, as well as it can be with quarantine. I've learned how to grill to perfection. You know that my grill skills are sporadic at best. I have fine-tuned that with hamburgers, hot dogs, turkey hot dogs, and veggie burgers. And I have to tell you, I make a great margarita now. So there's been some benefit from quarantine. I'm trying to get something positive out of a negative, Gus, right?
Do you feel like the turkey burger or turkey dog stick to the grill a little bit more than you'd like to?
I found that at first, and I move them around a lot. So I know my cousin always tell me don't get flip happy, on the grill. I understand that. But first of all, as you know, I have no patience. So the idea that I'm taking the turkey burgers out to defrost them like 8 hours earlier, I think you know that that's not happening. So I think you're aware that I'm plopping fully frozen turkey burgers on the grill. So it requires a lot of constant movement, which with a margarita in my hand isn't that bad.
Okay, perfect. I love that that's the part of isolation that we're hitting right away. That's beautiful. Okay, so I have a legit question for you because I have like a very odd answer. Okay, in isolation, Mike, what's been the oddest thing that you've cleaned or tidied up, like that you didn't anticipate doing right away?
As you know, I'm a person who, again, always looking for efficiency with my time. So when Gus and I lived together and I had to heat something up, I would just heat it on 444 and take it out in 30 seconds instead of hitting 3-0. Okay. So Gus, I'm always looking for efficiency as much as I can. So I had a big basket of underwear, socks, and T-shirts, and I don't fold them. I just throw them in the basket because I don't need to fold my underwear. It's underwear. Okay. I don't need to fold my T-shirts. They're T-shirts. Okay. What I've actually done is I got something to put them in, and I've actually taken them and folded them and put them in the right place. So if you came in before this quarantine, partner, you just had a big container full of underwear, socks, and T-shirts. Because why? Why am I going to spend 20 minutes when I'm just going to put them on and no one's going to see them, right? Emperor's clothes, whatever.
Okay, I think we could carry on this conversation the whole entire podcast. This is
what the listeners want, I'm sure, my underwear drawers. Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in and say, Mike, I found myself vacuuming because we're trying to vacuum and like do the whole thing. And the upstairs of our house is the bedrooms. So we're going in the bedrooms and vacuuming. So I'm the vacuum guy, and so I'll run the vacuum around, so on and so on. I found myself vacuuming a lampshade.
Oh Jesus! Oh my God!
Because I just went around and I was like, all right, what else can we get clean here? What else can we clean up here? And I found myself not only the outside of the lampshade, but I vacuumed the inside of the lampshade.
It's a good job by you. Very Jerry Seinfeld-esque right there. Attention to detail. I like to see that.
It might be a little bit of a problem, but that's where I found myself. And then I found what I was doing and just took a moment to realize, okay, I'm vacuuming the inside of a lampshade. Something needs to change and I need to get out a little bit. This is an issue.
Well, I'll tell you something. My wife will ban me to doing that if I give my son another black eye because we're diving for a loose ball downstairs when I'm on my knees during one-on-one. I dove for that ball. He went head first. But so my finger went right into his eye. Oh,
listen, if there's another ball dribbled in my basement by my daughter,
oh, your daughter must be breaking ankles. Oh my God!
We're gonna put some cracks in the foundation, no doubt.
Ankles.
All right, listeners, let's get to some college basketball for you guys. Thank you so much for letting us talk about a little bit of our quarantine situation. We have a number of different situations that we need to talk about for college basketball that have taken place over the last couple of days, last couple of weeks that Mike and I haven't been able to talk about together. We hope that you've enjoyed some of the season recap series podcasts that we put together for you guys. We've tried to pull together a couple of teams that you might be interested in. So you like those things, please go back and give them a listen. If you have a friend, tell a friend. Tell a friend to listen to the podcast as well. First thing, name, image, and likeness. The NCAA opens up with guardrails. Do they really need these guardrails?
Oh, please stop. Not you, just in general. I can't hear the phrase anymore. Oh, my goodness, yes.
Can we be done with it? Are we okay with it?
Please. I just
All right. They had to do this after the G League rolled out its model and after there's, legislation for other states that are going to, approve for college athletes to get paid for their name, image, and likeness. Number one, G League. This is definitely a reactionary measure to that. I will say in one regard, this is where, and you go where you want from this, Mike. I will say kudos because they did not just default. They could have just defaulted to the Olympic model. They didn't do that. The Olympic model did not work perfectly for Katie Ledecky over at Stanford because she had to choose between getting paid, $500,000 from Speedo or being a student athlete for Stanford. So that was a thing that she had to choose between, even though the Olympic model is something that they could have used. They didn't default to that. So I will give them a little credit for that. Next thing. They needed this to happen due to the legislation that's in place for California and Florida. I'm still going to say this is a reactionary move by the NCAA, but it is an attempt to solve the problem. And really the problem occurred because of the FBI investigation, and it helped put programs like Louisville and Kansas on alert. So Mike, where are you at with the name and likeness? And do you think it was a good move? Do you think there's anything that's going to happen from this? Do you think there's going to be a movement from it?
Listen, I'm for progress, and this is certainly progress. You and I have said they should be paid forever since we started this podcast. Name it, right. Image, and likeness, I'm fine with that. I'm glad that college can finally say that these athletes can make some money off of their name or their likeness. No video game is not going to be a college EA Sports because of the O'Bannon situation. Fine. Baby steps, I'll take it. I don't like, for some reason, that Mark Emmert contacted the Senate and wanted to say, what's your view on this? Can't they run their own house? You know what I mean? But the Senate came back and actually said they need more description on what name, image, and likeness means. So again, there's more stuff to be ironed out. But leadership is about making decisions. We saw that in the Jordan, the Last Dance, which we'll get into. It's about making decisions. It's about sacrifice. It's not easy. There was way too many cooks in the kitchen. Just make your decision. Try it. It's not going to be perfect. I can't take guardrails anymore. But I like the fact that they're doing something. They can't wear the school apparel. I'm fine with that. Just like the NBA, we saw with Giannis, he did the commercial. He can put the colors on. He can't put the actual logo on. So if they can't put a school affiliation, that's fine. I always wanted to see, something like in Hoosiers where they say Friday win, free Saturday trim at the local barber. I guess you can do that. You can just have the person there on their face on there. You can't have them actually in a Duke or a Kentucky uniform. But for me, Gus, any progress is good progress. I'll take it.
I'm totally with you on the progress part. And I'm totally with you on, hey, if the NBA can't put their logo into that commercial, then I'm okay with college athletes not putting their logo in that commercial as well. I understand the ownership that college programs want to have on their brand, so I get that part. All right, Mike, how about this? What are we going to do with this one-time waiver vote on the 20th? What are we going to do with this transfer rule? I don't think it's going to go through, but I want to know what you think, and I want to know what your feeling is on. And look, this just goes back to the transfer rule overall. If coaches like Steve Forbes that went from ETSU to Wake Forest can just get up and move and then go coach the next season, then players should have the same opportunity. Student athletes should have the same opportunity. That's where I'm at with that. I know we may differ slightly on this, but where are you at with where that vote might go on May 20th?
Yeah, I think they should be allowed to switch schools. They go to school for the coach. We have to be, I don't like getting caught up in theory and in, visions of grandeur. You go to the school for the coach. You don't go for the quad. You don't go for the library lawn. You don't go for the fluffernutters. Okay. And that's me from Massachusetts when I went to college. I may have actually went to my college for the fluffernutters, but still they're going for the coach. If the coach can leave, the player should be allowed for a transfer, especially if the coach who they went for, they haven't played for yet and they ended up leaving. So the test case for me is going to be Olivier Sarr because he left from Wake. They got rid of Manning. He transferred to Kentucky. Here comes Forbes, takes the pot shot at the Kentucky education, tries to keep Sarr. Sarr's 7 feet. Sarr ended the year playing very, very well. Calipari has a lot of pull. So if anyone can get this through, it's going to be him. I doubt it. I think Sarr's going to have to sit. But I don't think they're going to pass the waiver on the vote on May 20th. But I would be for it because I just think we have to be real here. If players are going to college for 1 year and then taking fake classes that don't even amount to much because they're going to declare for the NBA and they don't even have to enroll in classes for the second half of the year because they're not going to be back, then let's just call it what it is. So I hope it goes through. I don't think it will. And I think Sarr's an interesting case because if he codes Kentucky, I mean, they could vault to number 1 past Gonzaga and Villanova. They'll be loaded. But either way, I'm glad we're at least talking about it.
I am too. And I think the perfect situation and example that we can use is, Mike, I know that you were not a music student in high school. I was. So we'll just use that as an example here. And you just tell me your blanket opinion on this. What if a college student who is a musician, and let's just say he's a woodwind player, he's an alto saxophonist, and his instructor, changes institutions and goes from North Carolina to North Carolina State. Just moves over, and he really likes his teacher, he really likes his professor. Is that musician limited and have to sit out a year to go do his thing over at North Carolina State? Or is he free to do that?
He should be free to do it. That's the point. Absolutely.
Right. So if a musician should be free to do it, a college athlete should be free to do it too. Here's why. That college musician could go out and play gigs, local bars, local taverns, and get paid for that. And that doesn't need to get reported to the NCAA. Let's say let's say he's so good, he gets recruited for a couple recordings for maybe a soundtrack here or a soundtrack there. He doesn't need to report that to the NCAA. He can just go do that and earn that income. And let's say he goes over to NC State and then I'm afforded all of these other amenities that I didn't know that I was going to be afforded in NC State as an alto saxophone player. And now I have all these other opportunities. So if that's available to the alto saxophone player, it should be available to the power forward in college basketball as well. So I think that's where we're at with that.
Yeah, I agree. That's my point. If they're there for the coach, you're there for the teacher, that's who you follow. It's a people business. I know the statue's nice. I know the weather's nice. I get it. But that's the main reason. If they want to leave, they should be allowed to leave and let the system play out. If the transfer becomes a problem and too many people are transferring all over the place and it becomes negative for the kids, they won't leave as much.
And I think talking to some of the people that we talked to for the season recap series, they've encapsulated why the redshirt year is really positive for some student athletes, and that'll still be in place. It's not like that won't disappear. Let's say like Gonzaga or Richmond or San Diego State or some of the other programs that we talked to have that opportunity to have like, we're going to bring this guy in, he can play immediately. Let's say he just wants to take a year off and really improve his game. Redshirt year should still exist for those players that really want it to exist and for those programs that really want it to exist and have had success with it in the past. All right, so let's go to the G League. We've had a couple of guys, Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd, and 7'2" Kaya Soto, who's an international product.
Tower of power.
Very nice. Opt to hit the G League and not the NCAA. This is really nothing new. We've seen top dudes leave the country and go play professionally overseas. We've seen Ball, we've seen Hampton, we've seen a number of other players, and they just flat out leave the sport due to limiters. And if we take a closer look at Memphis with Wiseman, he did the exact same thing. So this is just another more local and more visible option for top prospects. The team is going to be a select team in LA, so they'll have a bunch of visibility. Do you think this could be a new model for top prospects out of high school and help define the worth or the market value of an 18 or 19-year-old basketball savant? And do you think this could help the name, image, and likeness part that the NCAA is trying to get their handle on and maybe define a little bit of what the value might be in that regard?
People were saying originally that this could really hurt college basketball. I don't think it will. When players were able to leave straight from high school and go to the NBA, I think that was the year that Florida went back in the mid-2000s. College basketball is still great then. You're still going to have buzzer beaters. You're still going to have great games. Listen, I'm okay with this. If Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd, these guys, they want to get $300,000, by all means, go ahead. This is my point. I don't begrudge them. It's a lot of money. They still get a scholarship. They can go back to school after. I'm fine with that. But I don't think we're giving enough credit for the fact that an 18-year-old kid is not going to want to go from 18 to being an adult and hang out with older people and playing games in the G League in front of empty arenas. I know this is a special team. No one's going to go to the games. It's going to be very few. And listen, it worked because we had players. Brandon Jennings went over to Europe or to Australia rather, and then he ended up playing.
Great call.
It works for some people, and it may work for them. But just like we saw the Lenny Cook disaster, there will be several kids, Gus, that will do this, and they will fall flat on their face. And remember, the G League is not an automatic for success. I'd like to read for you the last, since 2010. Here are the rookies of the year in the G League. Okay, I just want to let you know. So it's not like if you go to the G League and dominate, you're definitely going to be great. You may be, okay, but you could be Kwame Brown. But let's see. Here we go. Deshaun Sims, Edwin Ubelis, Tony Mitchell, Robert Covington, Tim Frazier, Quinn Cook, Abdul Nader, Antonio Blakeney, Angel Delgado. Listen, some of those people are very good players. No problem with that. If you want to go, guys, go ahead. What's going to happen, Gus, is a lot of people are going to go. Some guys are going to bomb out. They're not going to do well. And the kids are going to say, yeah, $300,000 is nice. After taxes, it's $180,000. That's really not enough to make me bypass playing Duke, North Carolina in front of packed stadiums or playing in the Final Four in front of 60,000 people. It's not. But for some kids, it's a viable option, and I'm not going to begrudge any kid for getting $300,000 coming out of high school. I'm not, okay? But I think we're underestimating the fact what happens with the critique here of these people is they're 40-year-old people who say, I would have loved that money if I was a kid back in the 18. Okay, great. But you're not. You're an adult now. You're not going back to 18 years old when you were just trying to beat Miss Pac-Man and get to 10 bananas. Okay, so the mindset's very important, okay? That's it. But am I going to get mad because someone's getting $300K? No way.
That just illustrates what the value is for some of these players for the name, image, and likeness of those players that are going to choose to go to these blue bloods where they can get that amount of money that you just mentioned, whether it be $300,000 or, $180,000 after taxes, whatever that thing might be. So it's going to be tough for the NCAA to have these guardrails, especially with this G League structure. And really, what are we going to do? Are we going to define what the value is of Zion is, or Lonzo Ball, or DeAndre Ayton, or Markelle Fultz?
No, but maybe if Coach K gets that subpoena and deposition, maybe he'll define how much Zion was worth for us. Oh, there it is.
See how we set that up for you?
Oh, there it is. Deposition. Coach K, it's not my deposition. It's not your deposition. It's our deposition.
It's our shot, right, Mike? It's our shot. So we already know that a player at Brian Bowen is worth at least $100,000. So a top, 5 NBA pick would be worth at least 5 or 10 times that, right, Mike? So I think the G League proposition of paying these top prospects $300,000, and then the name and likeness coming into play at the same point, I think it just helps define what those quote unquote guardrails might be. And I think it kind of blows those guardrails out of the water, because there's totally going to be somebody that comes in and says, you know what? I want this player to come in and play at my school, and it's going to be $1 million. It's going to get to that point, and the NCAA is not going to be able to do anything about that. The G League helped structure that. So I want to see how both of those guys, the G League and the NCAA, work in concert. If that's a thing that can happen, I'd love to listen to that song if they do work in concert at some point. Let's move on to Danny Manning, Wake Forest, Steve Forbes, ETSU. Great hire by Wake Forest. Odd timing by the whole thing. I mean, we're both sitting at home, and I don't know about you, but I really haven't left my hometown for one single second, but asking somebody to move their whole entire family across state lines during this whole thing is a little bit nutty. But I guess, $7 million will do that and will make sense of all the nuttiness. What do you think of Danny Manning getting fired, Wake Forest hiring Steve Forbes, and then him moving state lines and moving his whole family across? And what do you think?
Yeah, we've seen very few schools fire their coach, even those that were kind of on the border of the hot seat, like the, of course, annual Shaka Smart hot seat, although he has a great recruiting class this year, which he seems to always has, but, look forward to the 19 and 12 year. But in this situation, they wanted to get rid of Manning. The Forbes move was the right move. They hired a search firm, which was odd. I mean, because Forbes had connections there. But we saw it with Stan Johnson getting the job at Loyola Marymount. I mean, when I interviewed him, he was still in Marquette. He was still in Marquette. So this happens. Right. We have to deal with it. And Stan Johnson, has said it's a challenge, but we work on it and we figure out how to get better and get to know the kids, and we just adapt. And at some point we will be back. And when we're back, we're going to be able to move forward and do the best job that we can. So I think Forbes is a great hire for them. A lot of high energy. You saw him on Twitter. Let's go rip the mask off. I don't know what the deal with that is, but that's fine. He's done a great job at East Tennessee State. He started coaching there in 2016. Here's his records, win-loss records at East Tennessee State since then. 24-12, 27-8, 25-9, 24-10, 30-4. So great job, high energy, up-tempo. Now, he's really survived off a lot of the transfer players in his career. He's going to have to recruit a different caliber of athlete. When I talked to Mike Barber about Virginia Tech, they had the same questions about Mike Young coming from Wofford. And he proved them wrong. He's got a great class coming in. So he's going to have to do that. But the guy, how do you not love him? A lot of energy, fired up, Wake Forest. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I like the hire. I think if you're going to get rid of your coach in the middle of a quarantine, this is the type of guy you want coming in.
I agree. That is the type of coach you want coming in. And remember, he was one of Bruce Pearl's right-hand men in Tennessee when they had that whole thing running there. So the fact that he was an assistant coach there and knows how to get a big program running, that makes sense. If he's going to expand upon that, you cross your fingers and hope that as Wake Forest fans that he can keep that thing rolling. We'll go a little bit off topic here, but how about for Last Dance, quick thoughts? I think the soundtrack was just fire. I mean, it brought me back, like, because I'm a music guy. And, you know, one of the things I ask all of our guests is, you know, what's one of the things you listen to? And the fact that they brought back some Tribe and some Stereo MCs and Beastie Boys and things like that really brought me back. I got to tell you, I always thought that Scott Burrell was brought in to the Bulls so that he and MJ could talk some baseball. And it seems like they're trying to, you know, project those two as adversaries, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I got to tell you, I'm attempting to rewatch or watch it with my daughter. And we're watching like each episode in order. And already after episode 1, she is fascinated and thinks that Jerry Krause is not a nice guy.
Oh, that's hilarious, by the way. I wish I could have a video of you two watching that. I would love to watch that along.
Great.
The problem with Krause is he had the Napoleon complex. He didn't get enough credit. He did get Tony Kukoc. He is right that organizations do win titles. He's right about that. He did a very good job. Right. It was just too much. It was constant. Like, I know he was picked on and Pearl Jam, the whole thing, kind of like me in middle school. I get it. But yeah, he comes across, you don't fire Phil Jackson. You don't say Phil Jackson's not coming back. It's ridiculous. And it's been a great series. I can't wait to watch it. We've said when it's over, I love the music as well. It's been outstanding. So many great memories. MJ is the greatest athlete in team sports history. I think he's the greatest athlete ever, but especially in team sports, because here's the thing. He is the way he is because that's what you have to do to win 6 titles. I got an argument on Twitter with someone saying, "Oh, well, he wasn't a nice guy. You don't have to be that way to win." Yes, you do. You have to be that way to win 6. You don't have to be that way to win 1. Dirk won 1. You don't have to be that way to win 1, but to win
Correct.
6 and win 3 in a row twice, that's what you have to do. Scott Burrell was soft. Scottie Pippen was soft. You saw that, what happened when MJ left, but he got them to a different level. Scott Burrell was a wonderful guy. He's super nice. He's an incredible athlete. He did not have the killer instinct. I remember watching him. And that 23, 25-point explosion against the Nets in round 1 of 98, that's like the highlight of his career. So Correct. MJ is just, he's the only one. He's the GOAT. That's it. I don't care if he yelled at people. He punched Steve Kerr. You and I have almost come to blows in practice in high school. It happens. Like, it's not a big deal. I've been riveted by it.
The fact that you mentioned that we almost come to blows in high school is very accurate because we have been on a rebounding drill on multiple occasions and pushed each other out of the way and like have been like looked at each other with a very keen eye and be like, I'm about to punch you right now.
Right. And then we go get a blimpie after. Like, it's okay. It doesn't mean
right.
You didn't shoot me.
Exactly. I wasn't going to like stop competing with you. I was just like, all right, let's do this again like tomorrow in practice.
Gus had to pull me off of my cousin. I was going to lay him out over a touch football game. I mean, these things happen. It's normal. It's fine.
All right, Mike, where are we going to go next? Are we going to go some draft lottery and combine, or are we going to go some team?
No, let's do some team stuff. We'll just do a quick recap. Gus and I are going to take you through over the next few weeks when we do these podcasts, just a recap of the teams. We want to keep you up to date on what's going on. We're working hard
Right.
for you there. Guys, drop us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to us. Screen the Screener podcast. We love 5 stars in a review if you appreciate what we're doing for you here, but we just love the sport. You know that. Trying to get some insight. First one I talked to was Chris Solari, Michigan State.
Chris is great, by the way.
Chris is great. He says we're going to get a beer when he comes out of here. At some point we got to do that. I'll tweet out that picture. We'll have a great time with him.
No doubt.
They won their 3rd Big Ten regular season title in a row. Cassius Winston, exactly. Had a great connection with Xavier Tillman. The turning point of the season I talked about with him was that win at Illinois in February. They lost 3 games in a row. It was 56-43. Winston got that 4th foul. Here comes the Fighting Illini. They led 61-60. And then at the end, they went back and forth. And while they were up 1, Winston drives to the basket. I saw this one live. I know you did also. Winston comes in, drives to the basket. All 3 Illinois players go to him. He throws it up over the basket. It was not a shot. It was a lob. And because Tillman crashed and they have that connection, dunks the ball, they end up winning. He talked about how Illinois was such a tough place to play, and he felt like that was a really, really big win for them. Spartans were 1-2 in their last 3 games prior to the game on February 11th. Michigan State wins 70-69. That was a huge one for them. They could have lost 4 in a row. That was a key game for them. They lost the next game at home to Maryland, but they felt like they got past it at that point. So the players coming back, they got Joey Hauser, who's eligible now after transferring from Marquette. Langford could make this team incredible if he comes back, if he's healthy. Right. That's the big question mark. They got A.J. Hoggard coming in, who's a combo guard from West Virginia. He's a 4-star. Matty Sissoko, 6'9", 230 center. He was number 1 player in Utah. That's your typical big for Michigan State coming in. The key is going to be the Canadian kid, Crean Main, a 6'5 guard. If he comes, and he's talking about the NBA draft, if he stays in the draft, okay, fine. But if he comes, it looks like he's going to Michigan State. That will make the Langford return moot. It could really hinge on Langford. If Langford doesn't come back, Maine could go somewhere else. But if Langford is gone, then Maine could be the guy. He said, Solari, that Foster Lawyer needs to prove more and not just be, I'm good because my mom says I'm good. That's me, not Chris. Lack of size and speed, lateral quickness hurt him. Rocket Watts needs to be off the ball more because he really started scoring and attacking the lane down the stretch. I remember I said to you, Gus, do we really think that like Rocket Watts and Aaron Henry and Gabe Brown, these guys are good? And then all of a sudden at the end of the year it was, Rocket Watts, Aaron Henry, and Gabe Brown are good. Right, exactly. Solari called Rocket Watts Keith Appling. I thought that was a great comparison there. But I think they need Kareem Maine because they need a point guard. So basically that was the summary. Michigan State's going to be at the top of the Big Ten again. Great season. Izzo has it going and really could be dangerous again next year, even though they lose Winston. And, of course, we think they're going to lose Tillman.
Just my 2 cents on this is that I think that Tillman is a completely underrated part of the equation here. He and Winston had this, what we all hope for in college basketball. They had this unconscious relationship off the ball that existed. And you just knew that on the pick and roll or on the pick and pop, there was a part that Winston was always looking for Tillman. Mm-hmm. And that part was really exciting for Michigan State. You also knew that Winston had that big shot ability, especially in the second half of the season.
Yes.
Once he got his head in a great spot, and he got his head to a great spot in the second half of the season, you knew that this Michigan State team was totally dangerous. The first part of the season, the first half of the season, Cassius Winston is the preseason player of the year. He deals with all the turmoil that he's dealing with personally, and he has to filter that out. And when he's trying to filter that out, obviously you're not going to have the results on the court that you're looking for. But once he got that in a great spot where he was comfortable with it, this Michigan State team could have went to the Final Four. I'm not afraid to say that at all. And I think that once the season came to a premature, finish line, this Michigan State team with Tillman and Winston running that pick and roll, that was dangerous. And I'll tell you what, Cassius had something going the second half of the year, and maybe that something that he had going could have run all the way to the Final Four.
Please, folks, Cassius Winston's going to have a career in the NBA. I heard the same complaints about Josh Hart.
No doubt.
The kid's a winner. He'll find a way. He'd be a great backup point guard, maybe even a starting point guard. I have no idea. But the kid's a winner. I don't want to hear about the athleticism. When you're that efficient, the athleticism to me just doesn't matter. Next one, Gus, I talked to Jerry Tipton, the legend at Kentucky.
absolute legend.
I did go there and say, like, are there rumblings? Like, do people really complain about John Calipari? Like, he only has won one. And then Tipton gave me a great comparison. He said in the first 80 years of the NCAA tournament, Kentucky won 8 titles. That's about one per decade, meaning that Calipari is shooting par, right? I mean, so, which is saying a lot if you go to Kentucky and just keep the success going.
Right.
They lost a lot. E.J. Montgomery's testing the waters. Keon Brooks is already returning. They, again, are the top incoming recruiting class in the country. They
have name those stars.
Yeah, they got B.J. Boston. They got Terrence Clark, Devin Askew. That's 5 stars, 5 stars, 4 stars. Isaiah Jackson's 4 stars. Lance Ware's 4 stars.
They have Toppin. They have Davion Mintz. Right.
Forget the transfers. Right. He's the transfer from Creighton. Davion Mintz. He's great defensively. He would be a huge addition there. Sarr they're hoping to get. Mintz is coming over, of course, from Creighton. So, yeah, I think that they're going to be great again. Johnny Uzang left. He went to UCLA, but he was 12 minutes and 3 points per game. So they're loaded. They're going to be great again. Calipari's a master at having these players average 8-9 points each. Who's the alpha dog? Let's see what happens. But if Sarr's eligible, you're going to see Kentucky at the top of a lot of preseason top 25s.
Listen, if Sarr's eligible, I don't know if that's a gigantic problem for them. I will tell you this. Mintz is going to be a problem.
Great defender.
Here's why. Calipari has had unbelievable success with lead guards and point guards during his career wherever he's been. If you want to go to Memphis, you want to go to UMass, you want to go to Kentucky. When we discussed Davion Mintz transferring over to Kentucky, he's going to try to get this point guard thing down. And if you're going to go someplace to get your point guard thing down, I think that's the place to get it done. I'm intrigued. I'm concerned about the rest of the SEC, and I think that they might be a little bit surprised. There might be a couple of alley-oop lobs from Davion Mintz to Sarr that they're not expecting, and I think Kentucky might sneak up on a couple people, if that's possible, nationally and in the NCC.
And listen, I think they have an excellent chance to be second in the SEC next year next to Tennessee. Anyway,
look at you. Nice. I like that.
Love Tennessee next year. Moving on. That. Couple more for you, Gus. Iona, Guy Filatico does a wonderful job for Iona. This guy died and went to heaven, okay?
Guy's the best, by the way.
It's all Pitino all the time. Folks, Pitino's in the MAC, okay? And it got a whole lot more interesting. They have the number 1 recruiting class in the MAC, of course, 100th overall. The big one they got was Ryan Myers, who is a 3-star incoming guard. He's the highest recruit, Gus, that Iona has ever had since Norvell Pell, okay? Who's playing for the Sixers right now, 2 points, 3 rebounds per game. He was at St. John's. He wasn't eligible. He decided to switch to Iona, and they just ended up going to the NBA. The Gales were 6th this year with no Tim Clues. He resigns because of the health issue. Then the Gales, coming into this year, though, had dominated the MAC before Pitino arrived. This is what people know about Iona. They had won 4 consecutive MAC tournament titles in a row. They appeared in 7 straight MAC tournament finals and won 5 of those 7. So, folks, we know Rick Pitino's a legend, but Tim Clues did an amazing job for Iona. I have to admit, Gus, I'm a little excited about Beric Jean-Louis, okay, the recruit from Florida. I put him on the YouTube channel. By the way, folks, Screen to Screen, a YouTube channel. This guy is more of your athletic type. And listen, when you get highlights from high school, normally, Gus, you'll crossover. Okay. This guy's taking off from the foul line on fast breaks. Okay. So Beric Jean-Louis, in my opinion, we're still waiting to hear if Pitino's going to get that suspension, man, after the level 2 violation for failing to promote an atmosphere of compliance. But I'll tell you something. Guy Filatico is very excited by Iona hoops, and he should be.
Listen, Guy does a great job. I was so happy that you brought him on. And you bring up an unbelievable amount of points here. Okay, number 1, the amount of talent that they're going to bring in is undeniable. Like they have how about this? They have like an amount of talent that they're like would be comparable to if St. Mary's was going to bring into the West Coast Conference to battle Gonzaga. Like, that's where they're at as far as talent.
Did I mention Beric Jean-Louis? Did I mention him? Pass me a croissant while you're flying through the air on that foul line dunk. Thank you, Beric.
So if they're bringing that amount of talent with Pitino to, like, orchestrate all of that talent and architect all of that, forget about it. That's crazy. I'll take 30 seconds here. It'd be silly to not mention Tim Clueless and the success that he's had on the tournament level. Maybe he wasn't maybe he didn't finish first in, the MAC, as far as the regular season. But when tournament time came, you knew that team was always going to make the finals. You knew that team was always going to be a threat, and you knew that team was always going to play hard. That's not going to change. Clueless had that profile, that culture, that architecture in already. So the fact that Pitino's going to come in and just build on that, that's kind of scary for the rest of the MAC. No?
You can make an argument that Tim Clues, during his coaching tenure at Iona, dominated his conference tournament better than any school in the entire country.
For the past 10 years?
7 straight conference final appearances and winning 5 of 7. You're not going to find many schools that have done that in the conference tournament. It doesn't matter. Maybe Gonzaga. That's probably it. That's probably the answer. It's probably Gonzaga and then Iona in terms of dominating their conference tournament.
I mean, listen, if you're sharing space with Gonzaga, then I think we're doing okay. So we hope that the allegations don't necessarily affect Iona and Coach Pitino during his tenure at Iona, and we hope that those stay isolated and remain with Louisville, and some can exist in some sort of space where it doesn't affect anybody. That would be awesome, because we need Coach Pitino in college basketball to make it a little bit more exciting, especially at Iona and especially in the tri-state area. Who else we got?
Last one we'll do here is Virginia. Mike Barber comes in. This was a fascinating year for the Cavaliers. So obviously Tony Bennett, national title, the whole thing. Not much was expected this year, but going into next year, Sam Hauser, who transfers from Marquette, he's a difference maker. UVA won 8 in a row and 11 of the last 12 to end the year this year, despite only shooting 30.3% from three-point range. That was 311th in the country from three-point range, and only 71% from the free throw line, which wasn't great. So you're going to be a slow-paced, low in Ken Palm adjusted tempo every year, okay? You're going to be that team, and you can't make threes, and your free throws are just okay. Yet, what does Tony Bennett do? 8 in a row, 11 of 12 to end the year. Thomas Wolde-Tensai got extremely hot late in the year and down the stretch, which is what made up for it. So they didn't shoot threes well as a team, but Wolde-Tensai did, especially late. And yes, Gus, I'm going to say Wolde-Tensai as much as possible on the podcast for the next year. So whenever I can say Thomas Wolde-Tensai, I'm going to say it because I really like saying it. Kihei Clark will be back as the point guard. Jay Huff, we love Jay Huff. He may be on our all podcast team since we started. 2 blocks per game last year. They also get Trey Murphy, who was the leading scorer from Rice last year. He was 13 points, 5.5 boards, 82 from the free throw line, 38% from deep. He's got a city year, but he's got 2 more years eligible. Tony Bennett is loaded, Gus. And what Barber said is, for years, it was Tony Bennett has to recruit a special type of player. Okay, which, by the way, means not good. No one wanted to say that. Okay, I know he would get Malcolm Brogdon, those players. But when they initially signed them, no one was jumping up and down. Now, after getting that title and getting the proverbial gorilla off his back, he's got the 3rd best recruiting class in the ACC and a top 15 class nationally. He's got Jabri Abdul-Rahim, who's from over here in Jersey, Blairstown. That's a 4-star recruit. He's got Reese Beekman from Louisiana. That's a 4-star recruit. Carson McCorkle, who, by the way, everyone's going to hate unless you're a Virginia fan. He's 3 stars. This team is loaded. They have recruits, they have players, and Tony Bennett's a brilliant coach. They're going to be dangerous because they're going to have so many players back. Jay Huff's going to be blocking shots. He's going to be on my Twitter feed all the time, folks. And they're not going to shoot 30.3% from three-point range again. So I'm all in on Virginia, Gus. I think they're going to do it again next year.
All right, listen, give Mike a follow over at Randall Ranch on Twitter if you want to get more Jay Huff in your Twitter feed. And let's not forget, they also have a Hauser coming in as well.
Yep.
They have a Hauser that's going to come in and be a perfect fit for their team dynamic.
You know what Barber said, Gus? Because he was on the practice squad this year because he wasn't practicing, not playing.
Yeah. I bet that practice squad was undefeated.
Yeah, he said he would have been the leading scorer if he played this year.
No doubt.
Yeah, leading points per game.
That guy can shoot the lights out.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So if you're going to tell me you're going to give me a knockdown shooter
yes.
on a team that values possessions and plays unbelievable defense. Okay, yeah, I'll take that. That sounds good.
Look forward to taking Virginia in the points in the first game against Duke. No doubt about it. Absolutely. Gus, last thing here. Can I pick your brain here? We, of course, have draft, lottery, and combine have been pushed back for the NBA. Draft itself is still on for June 25th, but that's very much in doubt. So you and I always like to critique, should they have left, should they have stayed? I just want to throw a couple names at you here, and we'll give our opinions on whether they should have stayed or left. Now, these are NBA draft early entry players. So these are not players, Gus, that can return. They've already said, I'm all in, I'm going to the NBA.
Okay,
so,
great.
Precious Achiuwa from Memphis. He was a freshman, 6'9", 225, 16 points, 11 boards, 49% from the field, 60% from free throw line, which isn't terrible. 19 of the last 20 games, double figure scoring to end the season. He went in. Should he have returned to Memphis, Gus, or should he have stayed in the draft?
No, he should have left, and here's why he should have left. He should have left because he's going to be probably a top 25 player. If you're going to be a top 25 player in the NBA draft, then you should be out. See ya, sayonara, catch you later, and go catch your guaranteed millions of dollars. That should be the protocol for anybody that's going to be a top 25 player. I'm not saying that for everybody, but I am saying that for Precious Achiuwa. Top 25 pick in the draft.
Got it. Okay.
He'll probably land somewhere in that scenario. Now, here's the key that's going to make him a very viable NBA player or a very talented NBA player. Can he shoot it? Because with his size and his physical profile, 6'9", 225, can he shoot it well enough from deep to stretch defenses? Because we know that he can guard multiple positions on defense. That's not going to be a problem. Can he create enough havoc on offense to be an NBA starter? I think for the profile he has right now, he's an NBA 6th, 7th, or 8th man. And I think that's where you pick if you're picking for the 25th or 26th or 27th pick. So I think that makes sense. But I also think if he can shoot it a little bit, then he might be a little bit undervalued.
I think he's got a chance to go top 20. I know this is a little odd because we didn't have the combine and we didn't have a lot of chances to see him. I saw this kid several times, Gus. As the year went on, I got more and more impressed. I saw the 22-17 game at Cincinnati. I saw the 25-15 game against Houston, last game they played this year. I saw the run there where he went 20-15, 22-12, 22-11 against Georgia, Wichita, and USF. I think he can develop the touch. I like him a lot. I think he's got massive upside. I agree with you. If he gets outside, in my opinion, the top 20, I think he's an auto pick for me. I agree. I love seeing the kids come back, but Gus, I think this kid is a lock for a top first round pick, and I think he can be really, really good. So I got no problem with it.
Yeah, I think if he's going to be a top 25 pick, I think he's out. No great decision on his part. And again, if he can stretch it out and shoot it from three, then he adds a whole other dimension to his game that I think NBA eyes didn't necessarily see, because after Wiseman left, he was forced to play in the post and in the paint more than he would, I think, originally planned for. So I think if he can shoot it from deep, I think that makes sense.
Next one, Tyshawn Alexander from Creighton. He's a junior, Gus, so he had 1 year left, 6'4", $195. Alexander raised his scoring over his last 3 years, 5 points, 15 points, 17 points this year, 86% from the free throw line. He's automatic, 40% from three on 136 attempts. He got some Big East Player of the Year buzz for a while. Obviously, Miles Powell, understand that. Do you think Tyshawn should have come back and maybe gone for the All-American, or are you happy with him going out?
This is a great question, because we talked to John Iatoa, who covers Creighton, and he was kind enough to go like really deep on Tyshawn and told us a couple of different things about him. Number one, Tyshawn has the physical profile for a lead guard in the NBA. You can look at his measurables, and he fits all the protocol. Second thing, this is something that maybe listeners or maybe casual watchers of college basketball may not know about Tyshawn Alexander. Dude, he'll shoot it. If he comes down and he's open, even if it's within the first 5 seconds of the shot clock and he sees an open three, guess what? He's going to take it. And when you shoot it over 40% from three, metrics say that's an unbelievable efficient shot for any NBA team anywhere. So Tyshawn kind of fits the NBA profile of how they're playing right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Tyshawn go late first round, second round, because I know that maybe the numbers aren't going to jump off at the page at you, like stat-wise or box score-wise, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you're going to play inside the Big East and you have to guard Miles Powell, and you have to guard Marcus Howard, and you have to guard Kamar Baldwin, and you have to guard Sadiq Bey, and you have to guard those guys on the defensive end and put up numbers on the offensive end, like Tyshawn Alexander did, I think you're okay. And I think that anybody that takes him in the second round, they might be getting a steal.
Well, if Tyshawn Alexander goes in the second round, he should have come back, because that would be a darn shame, because I do think this is a kid with the system he's in with Coach McDermott and the Blue Jays. He could have been a first-team All-American. I mean, he could have had 23 points next year.
No doubt.
But I hope he goes in the first round. I'm never, Gus, going to get on a junior for leaving. It's 1 year. I'm never going to get on a junior for leaving. He really did a great job. I think he had an outside shot at some sort of All-American team, first, second, third, whatever. But I can't be mad.
Guess what's going to happen? Zagorowski's going to get that first team All-American.
Yeah, I've heard that. I just can't see it. I've heard it, though. You're in the majority with that. I just can't see that. But that we'll talk about that. Yes, he's gotten a lot of buzz, and I'm like, guys, I like him, but can we take it easy? But I get it. I get it.
Right.
Two more left for you, buddy. Then we'll get out of here. Cole Anthony. Now, this is a big one for you. This is your sweet spot here. 6'3", 190. This is what I'll say, and then I'll kick it to you.
Okay.
I'm fine with it. Torn meniscus, recovered quickly. You scored 19 points per game as a freshman at UNC. I'm not going to bitch if you want to go pro. I get it.
Right.
But I'm just saying, only 38% from the field. I know there was nobody on the team. Garrison Brooks, I get it. Fine. 34% from three isn't great, but he was injured. He's almost certainly a lottery pick, right? So I can't say no. He did have single digits in 2 of his last 3 games. There's an argument to be made, Gus, that he could possibly fall a little bit, in which case I'd say if Cole Anthony was healthy the entire year, he's a top 5 pick, and he still may be. So I guess what I'm saying, man, is you were on Kobe White early, and he's been doing great in the NBA. I mean, this year as a rookie, right? 15 points, 35% from 3, had some big explosion games. What do you think about Cole Anthony? Obviously, I think he's going to go early, but do you think there's an argument to be made he could have come back, provided that he dominated pretty much the way he did this year when he was healthy?
All right. Here's the hot take. I don't know if this is usually I'm not a hot take guy. I think Kobe White's better than Cole Anthony.
Okay. I can see that. Fine.
I think that Cole Anthony struggles around the rim. I think his burst and explosivity around the rim isn't exactly what you want from a lead guard that's 6'3". If you're Ja Morant, if you're Kobe White, then you need some explosivity and you need some creativity and craft and artistry around the rim to create around all of these gigantic NBA bodies. I don't know if I saw that from Cole Anthony this year. I think I saw him struggle in those moments. Does he have a good floater game? Yeah, his floater game is pretty solid. Can he shoot it from deep? I saw some moments where he can shoot it from deep. Was it consistent enough for me to fall in love with it? No way. So I can't believe I'm saying this because I picked UNC to go to the Final Four preseason pretty much on Cole Anthony's exploitations and talents. I think I'm a little down on him after what I saw when he was healthy, and then tried to come back and be unhealthy, which is something admirable. I want to applaud him for that and say hey, you could have just called off the season and just been screw this sucks. My team isn't going to make the tournament and I can just call it off and just end the season. But he tried to come back and make some positive movement for his team and maybe make a run in the ACC tournament or something like that. So I applaud that part of his game, his guile and his competitiveness. But I don't know if his overall game is one that is top 5 worthy. How's that?
Yeah, he could fall. This could be a guy who falls on draft day. It's possible. And if it does, he should have come back because he'd be the lead guy, over 20 points per game. He'd be healthy the whole season. He'd be a lottery pick. And North Carolina could have went to a Final Four. I can't argue with it. I think in my heart that he will go top 15, so I'm not going to pick here. But you had a major injury, Cole. Your team was terrible, very disappointing. You could make an argument he should come back. But if he goes top 15, top 12, what are we talking about?
Right. What are you going to do? Right.
But yeah, if he drops and he's sitting there in the going, well, sitting there virtually, right? looking around going, oh, where am I? Okay.
In the virtual green room.
Then we're going to come back and say, Cole, you should have come back. You could have been the poster boy like Cassius Winston, right? I'm just saying. But I get it. I'm excited to hear you say that because I kind of agree with you, to be honest with you.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Last one, man, and then we'll, because I got a lot more. I mean, these are pretty straightforward ones. I mean, we haven't gotten to some of my favorite ones like Jaden McDaniels. Okay. But anyway, we can get back to that.
What, can we get to that later, please?
Oh, yeah. We say that one for the next one. Or by the way, can someone help Kevin Keats? Can someone help Kevin Keats at North Carolina State keep a commit? The last two guys he had have sit there and turned around and declared. Okay, I mean Keats, he's on the verge of having like a tremendous recruiting class. But Josh Hall, see you later. Anyway, last one, partner. Vernon Carey at Duke, 6'10", 270. I'm going to preface this. I love Vernon Carey. I would pick Vernon Carey in the top 8. I have been so impressed with him. NBA body. Great touch around the basket. Super efficient. Rick Majerus would love this kid. The economy of motion when I saw him in the clinic. This kid doesn't waste any motion. Great demeanor. Calm. He's not volatile in terms of his personality. 17 points, 8 rebounds. 67% of the free throw line. Not terrible for a big. Love the kid. His explosiveness. He's young. 6'10", 270. Stick the kid as a power forward for NBA for 12 years. Love Vernon Carey. I assume you're with me.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. What are you thinking? Are you thinking Okafor or are you thinking something else?
That's a good one.
That's where the question lies, Mike. Because you have the very familiar comparison to Okafor from Duke.
It's a good one.
Or thinking something else. So I'm just going to throw it back your direction and I have a thought. Go ahead.
I see Vernon Carey as the starting power forward on a team that's in the Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals at some point in his first 5 to 7 years.
Okay, so then my question...
I didn't say he's the lead scorer. I said he's the power forward on the team. That's what I said.
So then my question is he the power forward or is he the center? He's the center. So if he's the center, then that economy of motion comes into play. Because what we're looking at here is we're looking at a little bit of a dinosaur. We're looking at what are we going to do? If this was not even how many years ago did Okafor go number 1 overall? I mean, it wasn't that many years ago, and now Vernon Carey is going to get picked in the 20s. So the evolution has moved very rapidly from I'm going to take a big man and he's going to get us big buckets to I'm scared of this big man and I don't know if I want him to get us big buckets. So that's where the conversation is here as far as the NBA draft goes for Vernon Carey, because he's exactly the exact same player, not exact same player, but he's a very similar player to what we were talking about, to a player that got picked first overall. So here's what I'm going to go with Vernon Carey. Number 1, Vernon Carey is much more athletic than Okafor. I think he'll be fine. He can guard multiple positions, especially the bigs, the 4s and the 5s. He can switch back and forth. He won't get lost on the perimeter defensively, especially after a little coaching, NBA coaching. So I'm good with that. Can he shoot it a little bit? Yes, he can shoot it a little bit. He's shown the propensity to hit a couple threes, so you can stretch the floor with him a little bit. Can he shoot it from NBA 3 range? I think that's still to be determined. I think the NBA workouts that they would have played a big role on where he got picked. I think every NBA team that was thinking about picking him would station him out on the NBA 3-point line and make him shoot like legitimately 100 threes from there in every workout. And that would have determined where they would have picked him. I also think that Vernon Carey is an underrated rim defender. I think he's athletic enough to be that kind of quasi rim defender, at least like a secondary rim defender off the ball, where he could help out defensively, especially with all the switching that's happening in the NBA recently. So I think Vernon Carey is fine. I think Vernon Carey will be a very productive...
Would you have told him to leave or come back?
Oh, no. He's out. Get him out. If you're 6'10", and you're, 260, 270, 275, whatever he's weighing at, smell you later. He can shoot it a little bit. It's not like he's like this project where you have to teach him how to shoot it. Like, no way. He will probably be in the same category as Cole Anthony, where he will be a top 15 pick, top 20-ish pick, at the very worst, top 25-ish pick, where somebody will take him and be like, okay, we can plug him in as a 6th, 7th man, and we can turn him into like a stretch 5, which is like where the NBA is at now. So I think Vernon Carey has value as a stretch 5.
Really good point. Excellent points across the board. I guess I just feel, Gus, that the pendulum at some point is going to swing back away from the positionless basketball. It's going to swing back to the dominant center and the dominant point guard.
I'm gonna totally disagree with you right there, and I think it's just gonna, unless they change the dynamics of the NBA floor and they move the 3-point line back, I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. I think as long as the NBA floor remains with the dimensions that it has currently right now, I think that spot up shooters and wing players are gonna hold a higher value than post up players like Vernon Carey. And until they move that 3-point line out to like, let's just throw out an arbitrary number of like 25 feet. Until that happens, then those post players and then those mid-range players are not going to have value in the NBA game. In the college game, huge value. Vernon Carey, we've seen Kofi Coburn have enormous value. Like, those guys are going to have big value in the college game because there's not that elite shooting in the college game. But once we get to the NBA game, unless we move that 3-point line out, like those post players and those post touches just don't have the same efficiency that they used to.
Yeah, but it's going to go the other way. I mean, I heard for years that with the game the way it is, Virginia's never going to beat North Carolina, and all of a sudden we're running, screens and sets when everyone's talking about spacing. And listen, I'm not saying that Vernon Carey's going to be Shaq. Okay, I'm not saying that. No. But I wouldn't be surprised if at some point when the high scoring gets out of control and no one is defending the post anymore and everyone just doesn't care, that all of a sudden a very smart tactician coach is going to start feeding the post, and all of a sudden people are going to say, well, wait a minute, how do we stop this? I think Vernon Carey is going to be a very valuable ancillary piece on a championship team. But I do agree, you made some really good points. I think he's got to develop the jumper. You can't just be a back to the basket big. You have to be able to run the floor. You have to be able to hit 15-foot jumpers, and that's what he has to work on. And listen, if he doesn't, then he's just going to be king of the little people, and he's going to be potentially a bust given where he's going to be taken. But I love Vernon Carey. Maybe it's the old school guy in me. Maybe that's it. So smooth, so fluid. I've seen these bigs come out, man, who are 6'10", 6'11", and shoot threes, and everybody falls in love with them, but then they don't do anything because they can't dribble, they can't shoot, and they just were a tall kid in high school. Now here's a back-to-the-basket bruiser who hopefully can develop a little bit. I hope, because I just love the kid, and he shook hands. Remember, did he foul out of a game or something? Yeah. And he ran over, he shook Roy Williams' hand. I love that. I love that stuff. I do.
The sportsmanship is fantastic.
Yeah, classy guy. Classy guy. Yeah.
So, Mike, here's where I'm going to give you some credence with your argument. You ready? Okay, so who's the last NBA champion? Just give me the last NBA champion. What team won the last NBA championship?
Toronto.
Correct. Was Serge Ibaka a big part of that team?
Yeah. Yeah, like something right now. Serge can go outside.
Can Vernon Carey be Serge Ibaka?
Right. Serge Ibaka can go outside. He's a much better athlete. He's long. I get it. I get that. Something like that. Maybe is the guy. Maybe he's a screen guy. I don't know.
There's the value of Vernon Carey. The value of Vernon Carey is in Serge Ibaka in an NBA championship winning confine. That's where it's at. That's where it's at.
If Willie Cauley-Stein can find a way to play in the NBA, Vernon Carey.
Stop it now. Stop it.
And I know that Willie Cauley-Stein's a hell of an athlete. I know he's a better athlete than Carey. I get that. But
absolutely.
Vernon Carey's a better basketball player in terms of skill. The question is, can it translate? And is he going to have a coach who can use it?
And Mike, can I just bring up one last point? And this is the thing that you really key on. And this is the thing that you really identify and do an unbelievable job with. You identify who is a really good basketball player. You identify, look, I think this student athlete is a really good basketball player. And sometimes that gets underrated. And Vernon Carey is a very good basketball player.
I just can't wait to see when we do the NBA draft comps. I can't wait to see who you comp him to. I mean, maybe it's Okafor. I don't know. But anyway, so we got some more guys we'll get to next time. I mean, I can sit here with Gus. We can talk about Jaden McDaniels. We could talk about Reggie Perry, who may be my favorite player in the history of the NBA when he gets in.
Stop it now.
We could talk about Nick Richards. I mean, you can go on about Obi Toppin. I can say, who is Khalil Whitney? Does anybody know who that is with Kentucky? But anyway, the point is, a lot of guys coming. Omer Yurtseven is going to be in the NBA. He's 36 years old. That's impressive also. So, Gus, a lot of people looking forward. Hopefully we have the NBA draft and go from there, partner.
Whew. All right, so we'll get to a couple of rundowns of the NBA drafts a little bit later, but we thought we wanted to cover a couple of things for you guys, whether it be some previous podcasts. And listen, we've talked to a number of detailed, totally tuned in people for our podcast. For some particular teams and particular programs. So please go back and listen to a couple of those. I love the storytelling. I love the backstory for everybody that we talked to. I don't know about you, Mike, but that's been the most rewarding part, as far as talking to all of our guests, them telling the backstory of some of these student athletes and maybe some of the undercover stuff that we wouldn't notice as normal, casual watchers of college basketball.
Really quick, last question from me. Who goes first in the draft, Vernon Carey or Tyrese Halliburton?
Halliburton's going to go way before.
I think I'll take that bet. I think it's going to be a close
way
one.
Before.
I'm
going to say there's probably over 10 picks between the two of them.
That'll be fascinating. I can't wait to watch. Hopefully we have a draft.
Good?
Yeah, hopefully we have a draft.
Hopefully we have a draft.
It's tremendous.
Hey, if you really like what you're listening to, listeners, please give the podcast a follow over at STS Podcast on Twitter, Efficiency Keystrokes, of course. Go give Mike a follow at Randall Rant. He is insightful, educational, and as you heard on this particular podcast, very entertaining. And if you're like what you're listening to, please, kindness is cool. Go leave a kind review over on your podcast consumption vehicle of choice for our, all of our guests that we've tried to line up for you. I think we've had almost 30 guests that have talked about specific teams. So go live a kind thing about them. Go say something nice about them. Not even about Mike and I. Who cares about us?
Could you please give us a 5-star because we mentioned Beric Jean-Louis and Carson McCorkle in the same pod? Really would appreciate it. Thanks, folks.
That's really all we're looking for. All right, listeners, we'll catch you before you know it. Cheers out there.
Oui, oui.
I'm addicted to the appetite.